Hi everyone, it's great to get to chat with you here on a Thursday, nice and warm. So hopefully you guys are all inside and enjoying some AC. I won't take up too much of your time, but I hope in the brief time that we get together, I can just pass along a couple of things that will hopefully help your business. SEO is one of those things that lots of people have questions about. There's lots of misinformation and different approaches to SEO. We're a full service marketing agency, so SEO is just one of the tools that we use to help people's businesses. But honestly, it's one of my favorite because whenever you do it correctly, it's something that doesn't require a ton of investment. Typically, it's something that's relatively easy to maintain once you do it correctly and can produce huge results for businesses. So I'm going to jump right into the presentation. Again, thanks for jumping on. Again, Stingray Branding is the company that I work for, and we're proud to help lots of local businesses across the Charleston metro and also worldwide. We have clients all the way from Australia to California, Florida. We work with small businesses and large businesses. So we do SEO on a very small scale for startups that are doing niche services, and we do SEO for large corporations. Typically SEO, I mean, it kind of varies a little bit by industry, but for the most part, it's definitely well applicable for lots of different industries. Move this stuff over and there we go. Cool. So whenever you look at SEO, there's a couple of different things to consider, and it's important to know some of the terminology whenever you're looking to get started on SEO strategy. One thing that lots of people tend to tie together is Google Ads, search engine optimization, which is what SEO actually stands for, and then the various services that Google offers. They'll kind of all put under this umbrella of SEO, and in reality, those are different things, right? So Google Ads is SEM, search engine marketing. SEO are the factors that determine where you rank on Google if somebody is searching for keywords related to your business. Right, so not necessarily your business. It certainly ties into that too, but we're hoping that if somebody goes to search for your business, you're typically the first thing that pops up. So what we're trying to achieve is getting a really high ranking on Google. Whenever I go to search for housekeeper or housekeeping company near me, if you run a housekeeping company, we're hoping that your site comes up first, right? That's the goal of SEO. And whenever that happens in the organic search results, you're not having to pay for that traffic. You're not having to pay for the leads. You're not having to pay for anything other than the time that was invested to make your website capable of ranking at that position. And one of the other things that I love about whenever people make SEO a priority is that the foundation for search engine optimization is having a good website. It's having a website that is designed well, that has good user experience, that has good coding, that doesn't have issues, that loads well, right? So at the base of SEO, whenever you look at, the very core thing that you want to start with whenever you're thinking about going after search engine optimization for your company is make sure that your website works well, looks good, and is correctly built. Because those things all factor into how you rank, right? Google's ultimate goal, and the reason that SEO exists is that they want to show the most related website or the most relevant website to the search that somebody is making, right? Because if we go on to search for a restaurant near me or any service, any business near me, their goal is to try to show the result that you're looking for, right? So it's not so much, I think there's so much misinformation or misperception out there about what SEO is, and it's just this big money scheme and all this other stuff. That's not really true, right? The purpose of SEO is, from Google's perspective at least, and for search engines, is that whenever a person goes to use their search engine, they're hoping that the first site that they show to that person is the exact match of what they were looking for, so that they spend the least amount of time looking for websites for what they need, and they find the solution to their problem as fast as possible. So at a core level, whenever we're building websites and we're working on SEO, what we are trying to do is create a website that meets the needs of our customers as best possible. Now, how that happens are the factors that go into how your site ranks, right? So we're going to dig into some of that. We're going to go through a little bit about content, because content is a massive part of that algorithm and how your website ranks. And we're going to talk about conversions a little bit and how to track your results, and then how you should have SEO as part of your marketing plan. So I led on this a little bit a second ago, right? But what is the difference between Google Ads and organic SEO? Google Ads is technically SEM, which is search engine marketing, also known as pay-per-click. So a couple different terms that people throw around for this. Google Ads is essentially you paying to have your website at the top of Google for your related keywords. And every time somebody clicks on that, you're charged anywhere from, it could be cents to dollars to double-digit dollars, right? So the average that we see is typically like $1.50 to $3 a click. In your high search industries like roofing and HVAC, real estate, things like that, you could be seeing upwards of $10, $15 per click. And what that, and whenever you go to look at that cost, you're being charged because they clicked on the ad, not because they contacted you. So you've got to do some numbers based on how many, typically how many leads do you need to get in to produce a conversion or a customer. Because if it's, if you're being charged $5 per click and you've got to get through 15 customers before you're going to see an actual sale, right? You typically, let's say you close 1 out of 15 leads that you get. Well, that means that 15 times 5 is what your cost is likely going to be before you see an actual customer come through the door, right? So don't think, oh, well, spending $5 is worth it if I'm getting a customer for that, because in reality, that's not going to happen every time. More than likely, it's going to follow most of your other sales numbers that you should know, right? How many people convert into customers, how many people you need to see per day or per month, all those types of things. So this can get costly very quickly. But if it's set up correctly and your website set up correctly, this is a really effective way to get your website to the top of Google while you're waiting for your organic SEO to get your website up here, right? So these are where the ads are shown. This is where your organic results are shown. And what we're going to be going over basically for the rest of today is going to be the organic SEO, which is right here. So, the goal is to be at this spot right here, right? The highest on the page, right below the ads, so that, and a lot of people know to look for the ad, and they, people will see ad and they'll just kind of scroll through those and they'll usually click on this top result. That's the real like double whammy, if you will, of success for this is if you're running a pay-per-click campaign, you're number 1 in organic SEO and you're number 1 on Google Maps, then people are seeing your website or your company 3 times on one page, on that first page of Google. That'll significantly increase your leads. That's probably a different topic for a different day. So organic SEO, like I said, it's the process of matching your website content, your coding, your traffic, your site relevancy, how your website's built, and up to the total of 220 factors to the Google algorithm, right? So there's 220 factors that go into how a website ranks on Google. Of that, there's 5 or 6 that are really, really important. And as time is progressing and technology continues to speed up and get better, some other factors are starting to weigh in a little bit more. So typically how long your site has existed is part of the algorithm that plays a significant part, right? So having a website that just launched, you're probably not going to be ranking on page 1 of Google within a week or 2. It's going to be a few months before Google's really going to give your site any credibility. From there, looking at your content, right? So making sure that the words on your website match what people are searching for, right? The keyword is mentioned as, a decent number of times. You put in the right place as far as your header tags and your paragraph content. Your alt text on your images is set up correctly. you've set up a good meta title and meta description using good content flow and good keywords. And content's a really, really big part of this equation. Next is going to be your traffic, right? So how many people are going to your website? If the person in position 1 on page 1 is seeing 5,000 people a month and your website seeing 200, it's going to be really hard for Google to say that your website is as relevant as that person that's on page 1. So this is where things like Google Ads can help. This is where your general advertising can help, billboards, radio ads, TV, social media ads, doing expos, stuff like that, right? Getting more people to go to your website outside of search to try to get your site traffic up there, which will help increase your site relevancy. And then lastly, the last two kind of really important things that we're seeing are, of course, backlinks, right? So what sites are linking to your site? And what's important about that is the quality of the website that's linking to yours, right? So not necessarily like a website directory. Those were popular a couple of years ago. More so like, is the local chamber of commerce, local news station, top ranked websites, are there any links going to your website from theirs? The more authoritative their website is, the higher they rank, the better their SEO is, the better it's going to help your SEO. And then when they link to you, what is being said in that link, right? So a lot of people will have like click here or learn more. The problem is that doesn't tell Google anything about what that link is about, right? So it's better if whenever somebody goes to link to your website, if that link is your business name or your service, right? So if you had like, for us, if somebody were to write an article about us or we were to run an ad on their website of some sort, our goal would be to have it so that Charleston web design are the 3 words that they are hyperlinking to our site, so that Google will see that link is for Charleston web design. That way it establishes who we are to Google and what our website is about from that website. And then the last thing that's really, really becoming more and more important as we move into the, not really even move in anymore, but progress through our mobile world is your site speed. 70, anywhere from 60 to 80% of website loads are going to happen usually on a mobile device. It kind of depends per industry. In the B2B sector, you're probably going to see a little bit more desktop traffic because people are searching for things while they're at work. But if you're in a consumer focused industry, you're likely going to see a significant shift in that mobile number of loads, right? So you're looking at, you're looking at probably 75, 80, 90% of the people that visit your site are going to be doing it on a mobile device. So how fast does your website load on those devices? And there's really cool tools that can help you measure that stuff, like GT metrics. We'll go through and show you what your site speed is. So that's another really important factor, especially if your site's really, really slow. So just a couple of numbers that have come out over the last year. So 93% of online searches, of online experiences start with a search, right? And this even goes into people that may be searching for your company. A lot of people go to Google and search for the company that they're looking for versus because they don't know the website address, right? So even that matters. Over 78,000 Google searches happen per second, which is unreal if you really put that into, large scale kind of thought. Optimizing your user experience to ensure viewers want to stay on your site is really, really important, right? That's what we're talking about with how it's built, right? Is it aesthetically pleasing? Does it load fast? Do the buttons work? Do all of your links work? Is the content, entertaining to read, or is it just basic sales copy, right? Like all those things matter in terms of keeping people on your website. And making sure your content is relevant and written kind of like a conversation. If you're seeing a really high bounce rate, and by high, I mean 70s, 80s, 90s, 70% of the people hitting your website are leaving. without doing anything, it means that you need to make some changes to how that site's built, how the content's written, or how it's aesthetically looks, or your performance, right? Like ideally you want to see, typically between a 40 and 60% bounce rate, unless you're in a niche. If you're in a niche, you should be like 30% or below. And how long are they spending on the website? A lot of this is going to go into the content that's on your website and how your website's built, right? Is it fun to be on? Does it look good? Is the content fun to read? If those things are happening, you're likely going to see a higher time on page, or higher amount of time on your website than somebody that's just got, basic sales copy. 67% of Google searches go to the first 5 sites that are in those results. So yeah, if you're working on SEO and you're trying to move some stuff, it's great if you're on page 2. You'll probably get a few different clicks from people that might go to page 2, or Google's algorithm, will kind of rotate who they show in those top 5 positions. So if you're in like position 6 or 7, you might get a couple of times that you show in that top 5, but the ones that are consistently in that top 5 are they're getting 67% of the sales, 67% of the clicks, 67% of the leads, of the brand awareness, right? So it's really important that your site is coming up in that top 5 for page 1 of Google searches. Said over 50% of searches are done on mobile. And depending on your industry, this number can range, like I said a second ago, 50 to 70% probably in the B2B sector, 75 to 90% likely if you're a B2C business. 72% of searches for local services visited a location within 5 miles. So the near me searches, right? So ice cream shop near me, restaurant near me, car wash near me, right? Like all of those play a huge role. Making sure that your Google My Business profile is updated is really important. And then if you're in an industry that people won't travel more than 15 or 20 minutes to go to, right? And that a lot of times it's going to be, chiropractor, massage, dentist, unless you've had the same dentist for a long time, like those types of things. Making sure that you are hyper focusing your content on your local area is really important, right? Like I live in Somerville. I'm probably not going to drive to Mount Pleasant for a dentist office. It just wouldn't make economical sense. So I'm probably going to put in my search, Somerville dentist near me. That's really important that if you're a Somerville-based dentist, that you have Somerville in your keywords if you are located there and you want to attract customers in your local area. And then websites that produce regular blogs get 55% more visitors than websites that don't. So blogging is still important. It's not quite as promoted and talked about as much as it used to be. I think for some it's kind of gotten saturated and overused, but we utilize blogs to talk about things that wouldn't be worthy of a full website page on most of our client sites. So we'll talk about, if you're a photographer, we would talk about, how to use lighting in a photo, or great places in Charleston to get a photo, things like that. So things that people maybe are searching for, but aren't, it's not a service that you provide. It's not something like that. It's something that would have some value to the person searching, and would get them on your site for a few minutes to read the content, and then maybe create a desire to reach out and turn and become a lead. Like I said, 200 to 220 factors. It kind of depends on which core update you're going off of, but about 200 factors total go into Google's algorithm. High quality content and link building are the top 2 ranking signals. Almost 60% of top 10 websites are more than 3 years old. Right, so that's talking about how long that domain has been established, and unfortunately, there's just nothing you can do about that. That one right there, other than just time. And then page 1 ranked websites average about 1,900 total words on them. So I think this one really surprises people, right? And let's face it, most of us don't like to read things. Most of us will just scroll through and kind of scan a website whenever we're looking at it. So whenever you're writing the content, I mean, I get that you want it to be short, you want it to be crisp and clean and direct, right? Because that's how we all think. But without those words, Google's unable to understand what your website is about and how to rank it. So, breaking your content up into different sections can help make it seem like it's not so wordy. Um, you can also, use alt text. You can use accordions for like FAQs and stuff. Your frequently asked questions. You can have like an accordion so that maybe all the words don't show at once. They can kind of click on options and more words would show, and then they can click on another thing, and the one they were just on would kind of shrink up, right? So there's different ways that you can work this in, but this is a big deal. Whenever we build a website, we won't write anything less than 500 words ever for a web page, because it's just what's necessary to get a site ranked. And if we're going for a really competitive industry, we're going to push for a pretty heavy content site, right? Where we're hitting, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 words per page. So what goes into that content, right? And there's lots of content's another term that's used a lot to kind of capture everything on a website: video, pictures, web copy, all that stuff. It's good to have a balance of content. It's good to have different things that explain who you are and interact with your visitors. Obviously, video, as we've seen on social media and everywhere, video is continuing to kind of take over, telling the story, getting your message out there, capturing people's attention. It's the same thing with web. Having video on your websites is significantly helps people stay on the website longer, interact with the website more. It certainly creates a much improved aesthetic appeal to the website. However, you don't want to have all video, right? Because again, Google has to be able to tell what your website is about for them to be able to rank you. So web copy is still really important. The written language and written words are still really important, especially for websites. And not everybody is able to watch video, right? With the ADA compliance continuing to expand, over the last couple of years, we've seen websites that get a lot of traffic. If they have a lot of video, you have to have transcripts behind your videos to narrate or to tell people that are not unable to hear that video what that video is saying. So things to keep in mind too, if you have a website that gets a lot of traffic or that's in the public sector, you're going to want to make sure that it's ADA compliant. With web copy, we try to, like, for us, whenever we're writing copy for our clients, we try to have it more like a conversation, right? If you're sitting there with somebody at lunch describing what your company does, or what it is that you sell or how you help them, how would you describe it in person, right? Because it's a person that's reading the web copy that's going to make the decision to buy from you. It might be a web crawler or spider or whatever you want to call it that's scanning the site to give your site that index of where it's going to rank. But there's a person that's going to read that copy that's ultimately going to decide whether or not they want to buy from you. So make sure that your web copy is written for humans. And Google is getting better and better at picking this up, especially the last couple of years. They can tell how many times a keyword is used. If you wouldn't say your service 15 times in a sentence to somebody in a conversation, don't put it in a sentence on your website 15 times either, because Google will pick up on that too, right? Their job is to try to get the best user experience website that is relevant to that search in front of that person at number one. We already kind of went over blogs, so I won't cover too much of that. Quality content can increase your site traffic by up to 2,000%. And will certainly retain how long customers are on your website exponentially. That's, I can't stress that enough, right? We want people to stay on our sites, stay engaged. The longer they do that, the higher your chance are that it will convert into a sale. Conversions and numbers. It's important to know if your stuff's working, right? How do you know if it works? So conversion tracking is really important. Google is great at giving lots of free tools to track stuff. Almost everything they do is free except for ads, as a matter of fact, which is super helpful. So Google Analytics, if you don't have it on your site, you absolutely should, right? That's going to tell you how many people are on your site, how many people have visited your site, what pages they're going to, how long you're staying there, what are they doing. You can also use things like Microsoft Clarity to actually see like heat maps of where people are clicking on your website, how far down are they scrolling. It'll record users on your site, like it'll show you like literally the motions that they do on your site and what they click on, right? So you can see if there are snags, like where does the average person stop scrolling on your website? Is there something they're clicking on that's not working? These are all great tools to improve your user experience and to put your content where it needs to be to convert them into a customer. If you're running Google Ads, you should absolutely be having conversions and an ad extension set up to get the most out of Google Ads and to know what your numbers are. Don't just wing it, right? Because you might be spending all kinds of money in the wrong place. Link your Google tools together. So if you go into Google Analytics and you scroll down some, you should see this. If you're in Google Analytics 4, these are all of Google's different products. They all link together. That's really important to make sure these things are talking to each other, right? They all serve a different purpose. And when linked together, you create a powerhouse of Google services to help, improve your marketing capabilities. So certainly if you are running Google Ads, it should be linked to your Google Analytics. If you have products, you should have Merchant Center connected to Google Analytics. Everyone is able to turn on Google signals from their main settings, which will help you remarket to customers that have come to your website in the past, and will also track performance across multiple platforms. Make sure that Search Console, all right, so this right here, Search Console. Search Console is where you're gonna submit your sitemap for SEO, which tells Google what are your pages on your website. It's going to tell you if there's crawl errors. It's going to tell you what your mobile experience is. If you have any loading issues, lots of little things inside of Search Console that tell you about your user experience on your website and allow you to create that snapshot picture for Google of what they should be looking for. Which is also important, right? Because otherwise, if you're not linking this stuff together and you're not telling Google what you want them to find and where to find it, then they're going to go paint their own picture and they're going to have to find it, which may take days, weeks, right? So there's shortcuts that you can do as a business owner to help you direct Google faster. Like, hey, here's my stuff. Go look here. This is what I want you to say, which makes the crawlers happy and typically produces a faster result for you. Right, and these are like some of the different systems that we use. Like we have Google Analytics installed on our social media software, on our HR software, on our website, mobile apps. Everything we use has, some type of stream and tracking connected to it for us to be able to see how people are engaging with our stuff. So as we kind of wrap up, you want to make sure that you have SEO as part of your strategy. At the very foundation of SEO, just like everything in marketing, you need to understand your audience, right? Who are you targeting? And then how do they interact with you, right? So your demographics and your psychographics is what this comes down to. So who am I targeting? How do they interact with what I'm doing? Where do I need to put my stuff that is not going to be intrusive and they are going to want to interact with me whenever they see it? Look for opportunities out there. Doing guest blogs on reputable websites that will provide a backlink to your website is very helpful. We blog for, we've written articles for Entrepreneur, we've written articles for Forbes, we've written articles for UpCity, Clutch, lots of different directory sites and stuff and ranking sites that rank different companies in our industry. So we'll submit a guest blog to them and they'll provide a backlink to us whenever they post it. And that backlink helps to establish our value to Google and who we are. So, you can do it possibly like local chambers, you could write guest blogs on. lots of different options. Lots of sites want content. And by you providing that content, there should be a value of getting a hyperlink back to your website. If SEO is confusing, if you don't have time, work with a professional, right? Hire a marketing agency or a specific SEO agency. There are lots of tools that exist. There's like Moz, there's agency analytics, there's SpyFu, there's all kinds of SEO software out there that's reputable. The best way to evaluate which one to use is go search for it on Google. The one that's coming up in the top 5 is probably the one to work on, right? Because that's what you're trying to do, is do the same thing. So hopefully they are using their own software. So definitely recommend you have a software, understand that this stuff takes time, be patient. SEO is a long-term plan. It is not a, I'll go do all this work in this thing and in 2 weeks I'm going to see results. It's going to take some time, especially if your website's brand new. It's going to take months, which is why Google Ads and advertising can help shortcut that for you, or at least create some leads for you while you're waiting for SEO to work. Know your numbers. You should know your sales conversions. You should know your non-SEO, non-advertising numbers to be able to measure against your marketing, right? So if you typically close 6 out of 10 in person, how does that relate to your website? If you're not converting 6 out of 10 leads that come in, then you might be targeting the wrong thing, right? That you may not be getting the right person there for your lead. Understand your bouts and time on page rates, pay attention to them. If they change, you need to be understanding why they're changing. These things will tell you how the changes that you're making to your marketing are impacting your customers and the people that you're reaching. And like I said, use those tools, right? Monitor your traffic, monitor your competitors, monitor your rank, use a software. It brings all this stuff in together for you, and makes it, nice and easy to understand. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you, Alan. We've got a question from Cassie. How did these metrics change for e-commerce focused businesses? I assume the methodology would also change.
Yeah, e-commerce is going to be, you would want to kind of go off of industry metrics to be benchmarking against, right? So what are industry metrics as far as the number of people that are visiting the site that convert into a sale? Getting feedback from customers is really important whenever you're running e-commerce. So if you have social outlets and have the ability to, we love to connect with you on Twitter or things like that, where you can run conversational topics, hey, here's a new idea, what do you guys think? It's really helpful to still be getting feedback from your customers, because you don't want to think that the issue is marketing and it be the product, and vice versa. You don't want to have an amazing product, think it's a product issue, and then it's really a marketing issue. So make sure that you're having lots of conversation with your customers, and then look at others in your industry to benchmark your success rates.
Thank you. A question from Chandler. You would generally be focused on Google shopping feeds, key optimizing product descriptions, and creating shopping guides as blog posts, 4 to 5 months minimum?
Yes, and making sure that, I think they already mentioned a little bit there with like Google shopping feed. So making sure you are connected to Google Merchant Center. That's, it's going to show products at the very top of Google, without them even having to go to a website. So that's a really big deal, to make sure that that's set up properly and connected. And then not taking SEO from an overall website approach, but a specific product approach, right? So the goal is to get each one of those products to rank high. So you're going to want to be doing SEO on that individual product page, using good content, good keywords, things like that to make sure that you're really maximizing that product's capability versus necessarily the company's website. And we would do the same thing for like large businesses that have lots of services, right? If you're a niche janitorial company where you only work on for like regular businesses, your normal small size business, the SEO is really going to focus more on a whole website approach versus if you are a janitorial company that does tailored services for residential move outs, whenever somebody buys a house or moves out after a renter leaves, you're doing Airbnb turnover, stuff like that. You'd want to rank each one of those services individually because they all have a different target that's going to be searching for them.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And a follow-up, do you also recommend Shopify over WooCommerce or other platforms?
I don't. I recommend WooCommerce over all of the other platforms. And that's really going to be a design focused question for me, and an in-depth question for somebody that's doing their own website, their own SEO, all their own marketing. Shopify is a really easy platform to use and just get something up and get going. So and if you have a good brand behind it, where you're not necessarily going after a huge SEO target, then Shopify can be a great platform. I like WordPress and WooCommerce because for us, it's like a blank canvas. We're able to design completely customized websites. We can customize every single feature on the website, from the way the cart buttons look, the way the cart page looks, the product pages, what's shown. Completely edit the checkout page, every sub page, and create a user experience that is completely customized to that brand or to that company, as well as the in-depth SEO capabilities that we can do with WordPress. But that's, again, as an agency, we have lots and lots of experience, so we know exactly how to do those things. As somebody trying to do it on their own, Shopify is definitely going to be an easier platform to use than WordPress and WooCommerce.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have questions for Alan? If you do, please type them in the chat box. And Alan, while we're waiting on that, would you like to talk about the upcoming North Charleston Expo?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the North Charleston Chamber is one of our clients, and I also participated in co-founding it a couple of years ago. We are partnered with the Charleston Regional Business Journal to host the North Charleston Business Expo, which is the largest networking event in the state. It features usually about 3,000 people that come through over the course of an afternoon. This year, it's an all-day event from 9 to 4 on August 23rd at the North Charleston Coliseum. It is free admission. There is a mayoral breakfast from 7:30 to 9, where all the mayors will be there doing discussing upcoming plans for the community, some Q&A. And then there's also a women's empowerment lunch that the Lieutenant Governor will be emceeing at 11:30 that day. So great event, great chance to get out and network, meet lots of businesses. I think there's still a few booths open. So if you're looking to have a booth there and present what you do, there's still an opportunity to get in and do so. I think you just go over to northcharlestonexpo.com to sign up or learn more for that.
And I would just add to that we at the SBDC present a Entrepreneur of the Year award each year at the luncheon, and we'll be doing that again this year. We typically have got a booth at the event, so if you want to stop by and talk to us about your business, just look for the SBDC booth. At this time, is there any other questions? Alrighty. Well, Alan, if you could stop sharing your screen for 1 second, I just want to give folks an opportunity to see the SBDC website. And if you're looking for your closest SBDC, just click on locations and click on the map where you're located, and it'll take you straight to us. That's your North Charleston office right there. So look forward to talking with everyone. We thank you for joining us today. And please remember, you'll get a post-event survey. If you complete it and return it, we will send you the slides from today's presentation and the link to the recording for today's presentation. We still have one person who we need your full name. So Nick, if you could please type your full name in the chat box, we'd appreciate it. Thank you, Nick.
And Robert, I also went ahead and unmuted Nick. So if he wanted to just share his name, that would be lovely. Up. So we got it in the chat box.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.